Afternoon. I'm sorry I'm a few minutes late. Here in Brisbane there's a storm potentially about to happen, although it's been potentially about to happen for about the last hour, so I've decided it's maybe not happening and it's totally fine to be on a digital device. I don't even know if that's a myth. Is that a myth that you're not meant to be on a device when there's a storm about to happen? Anyway, before I start my 5 on Friday, I want to show you, I got postcards in the mail this afternoon for my book, my actual book. So thank you to the team at UQP for putting these postcards together. Hey Ange, hey Michelle. And they're really cute. On the back they've got room for a list, a reading list. So if you're at any talks that I'm doing in the next little while, I'll be handing these out, and any books that I talk you can write down on the back of the postcard. So I really like them. I'm super happy with them. So UQP has been fantastic in terms of marketing material, I guess you'd call these sorts of things. They've just been so on the ball with everything, and I'm really, really pleased. I also saw my first review of my book yesterday. I didn't read it. UQP sent it to me, and then a couple of friends texted me and said they'd seen a review of my book online on the Momo Time to Read blog, and I opened it. I texted it to some of my really close friends and I said, not reading this, could you read it and tell me if it's awful? Fortunately it wasn't. It was an absolutely beautiful review and I'm really, really grateful. So first review of my own book is done, and I'm huge sigh of relief about that. I've been having, I've been really sick this week. I've had tonsillitis again. I get tonsillitis several times a year whenever I am really run down, and yeah, I haven't been very well, haven't been sleeping, but yeah, I think it's also just the build up to my book being released and feeling really nervous about it, but I'm quite pleased that that first review is done now, and it was a really beautiful review, so I'm super chuffed. Anyway, I'll start with my 5 on a Friday for today. The first book that I want to show you is called A Boat of Stars, New Poems to Inspire and Enchant. This one's been out for about a year now, but it has just received a notable on the Children's Book Council of Australia lists, and I'm not surprised. I kind of knew it would be on that list. Even though you never know, I often get the books wrong, but I kind of knew this one would be on here. It's just on the list. It's just beautiful. It's a poetry anthology for early childhood aged readers and their educators and carers. And it's absolutely beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful poetry anthologies I've seen in a very, very long time. And for lots of my friends who've had babies over the last year or who've had 1-year-old birthday parties, I've purchased this book because I just think it's beautiful. I said a little while ago that I often purchase books in bulk when I see them for birthday parties and things like that, because I know that sometimes once a book's been out for a while, it's not as easy to get it again. So this is one that I did purchase in quite a number of quantities. And I'm really pleased you love this one. It's super beautiful, isn't it? It's got a huge range of poems in it. This one's by Sophie Mason and illustrated by Lisa Stewart. All themes which are really relevant in the early childhood classroom. And actually when the editors, Margaret Connolly and Natalie Jane Pryor, were putting this book together, Natalie Jane Pryor rang me, and I was at netball training that afternoon, and it was perfect timing because I had like an hour to kill, and we chatted in the car for ages about the early childhood curriculum and the Queensland kindergarten guidelines, I can never remember that, an acronym, and the ELF curriculum, the Early Years Learning Framework. And I just talked to her a little bit about the sorts of things that are covered in the curriculum framework, and they've not exclusively stuck to that, but they've got poems on lots and lots of those topics which are covered in early childhood. Favourites and new ideas as well. The illustrators are all different, so here's a Thames and Ainsley, one of my personal faves. And there's a Matt Shanks, and the illustrators, the authors are all different as well. So there's a huge range of authors and illustrators represented in this book. Some of the best authors and illustrators in the country. I love this one about the jacaranda tree. I feel like it's very Brisbane, because in Brisbane we talk about these purple carpets of jacaranda trees. It's just gorgeous. So I love it. It's one of my favourite poetry anthologies, as I said. I just think it's beautiful for the early childhood age group, but also for much, much higher. Really good examples of different forms of poetry, beautifully put together. I also really, really like, and I stole this idea from my own book, I love at the back the little bit about each of the contributors, because again, I think educators want to be able to share with their classes who put the book together. So I loved this idea of a little bio about each of the poets and the illustrators. And I also loved that it had an index. An index to me just adds, it's a bit of a value add on a non-fiction book. I'm such a teacher librarian, but I do like an index on a non-fiction book. I feel like it just adds a little something. I like to flick through an index, and it's one of my favourite library lessons ever when I, teach about indexes and contents pages. See how much I'm smiling? They bring me joy. They bring a sense of order to the world, I feel, a contents page and an index. Really like them. Yeah, anyway, it probably says more about me than I should have said. So, the next book I'm going to talk to you about is I Am Human, and it's another one in what is fast becoming a series, I guess. It's not really a series, but they've now got a few out. There's I Am Yoga and I Am Peace as well. They are by Susan Verde, and the art is by Peter H. Reynolds, who is a really well-known children's book illustrator. This one's just really beautiful. I think it's only just come out, and it starts like this. I was born, a miracle, one of billions but unique. I am human. I'm always learning. I'm finding my way and choosing my path on this incredible journey. And so it goes on. Sally Allen. I get so frustrated when a non-fiction text doesn't have a contents page and index. Sally, you are a woman after my own heart. We would get on well. We really would. Anyway, back to I Am Human, and I'm going to ignore that Angela Haight Harris called me a nerd. How rude. I really, really love this I Am Human. It means, it's got things like being human means I am not perfect and I make mistakes. I can hurt others and I can be hurt too. I can be fearful of things I don't yet understand and timid to try something new. It's just beautiful. It is absolutely gorgeous. I love it. And at the end, it's got an author's note, and it's about how being human is full of challenges. This is full of joys and it's full of sadness. And it's a story about being human as both an individual and within our worldwide human community. It also has, as it has in the I Am Yoga and I Am Peace, I don't know if you can see the images of those covers just down there. It also has a bit of a mindfulness or a meditation that you can repeat with young readers. This one says, may you be healthy, may you be happy, may you be free from suffering, may you be filled with peace. May I be healthy, may I be happy, may I be free from suffering, may I be filled with peace. I just love them. It's a wonderful, wonderful series of picture books. I'm so enjoying using them at school when we do our mindfulness practices in library lessons and in classrooms. Which we've been doing sort of since late last year. It was sort of a whole school focus that we took on. And I just think they offer lots of opportunities for discussion, and they're just beautiful. Artwork's beautiful, text is gorgeous, absolutely love them. All right, change of pace. My Year 2 girls at school this last few weeks have been reading this David Walliams book. Oh my glory, it is so good. I love David Walliams, and I know he's described like this all the time, but he is absolutely the Roald Dahl for this generation. He has managed to capture that complete, he's just managed to do that whole naughty thing that Roald Dahl could do just so well, but they're a little bit more modern. I love his chapter books. They're just great. I've read all of them. And what I also like, which is also very Roald Dahl, is that there's a real depth to them. There's a lot of sadness in David Walliams books, and he balances the light and the dark of life really beautifully. I just think he's so clever. His picture books are superb. I think they're almost better than his chapter books, and they are for all ages. This is, I think, the new one. It's certainly new to me. It's called There's a Snake in My School, and I like what they've started doing. I don't know if you can see that on the front cover. David Walliams presents There's a Snake in My School. And then at the start of the book, it introduces the author and the illustrator. and I really like it. It's got David Williams, David and Bert, and it's got Stanley, Tony, and Dorothy. I just think that's super cute. I love all those little details. And at the end, it's got a good little bio on each of them as well. Anyway, the book is about a teacher called Mr. Bright. Now, I have read this book, I think, 4 times now to my year 2 students, and it's about Mr. Bright. He decides to have a bring your pet to school day, and his class brings along a stupidly cute gerbil, a tiny goldfish, a fat cat, a 100-year-old tortoise, and a tall dog. But then Miranda brings along her pet python, and it's called Penelope. I should remember, given I've read it so many times. Anyway, so they're having fun on their pet day, and then the school principal comes along and is like, what the heck do you think you are doing bringing pets into my school? She hates pets almost as much as she hates children. So I just love this character. I absolutely love Mrs. Blight. She is the nastiest, crankiest school principal you will ever come across. She locks all of the pets into the lost property cupboard. Look at those things jammed in there. Anyway, Miranda goes to beg to have her python back, and she goes to the office. And Mrs. Blight has disappeared. She lets the pets out of the lost property cupboard. And so the story goes on. I'm not going to give away the ending. Oh my glory, it's just such a rollicking tale. It's a really, really funny one. We laughed and laughed and laughed. I laughed at a different level to what the children were laughing at, I think. It's very Roald Dahl again. It's also very Simpsons in that it's, written on 2 levels almost. For example, in Mrs. Blight's office, she's got on her filing cabinet, the sign says something like hard exam papers, even harder exam papers up the top there. Always go the wrong way on this silly. Oh my glory, I have such a bad sense of direction. Find this camera really hard. On her filing cabinet, she's got harder exam papers and even harder. She's just nasty as. Anyway, my year 2s have really, really liked it. So much so that this term I was, part of my library planning was to look at the structure of a narrative, but also to look at the way text and illustrations work together and write a picture book with them. So I was going to base it on something else, but as soon as I read this, I just thought, we are going to recreate that. So we are rewriting There's a Snake in My School, and we are doing a pet day, and we've got some wonderful pets. One little girl said, I don't have a pet, but I've got an imaginary dragon. I was like, yeah, cool, you can totally have an imaginary dragon. We've got an Arctic fox, we've got a puppy, we've got all sorts of pets, and we're going to rewrite the story. And our school principal is not at all like Mrs. Blight. She does like children. I don't know if she likes pets. Yeah, I don't think Mrs. Maguire likes pets. But we're going to put her in the story as well. And our school principal has got really, really crazy curly hair. So we're totally going to capitalise on that in our illustrations. So grade 2s are really, really enjoying that one at the moment. But it's the sort of book you could read with any age. I just think it's a really fun story. It's good to have some fun sometimes. All the time, actually. It's good to have fun all the time, especially in library lessons. Right. Controversial one. I suspect for those people watching it, oh, hi, Tanya. Yeah, project is awesome and your daughter is involved. Now, this one is a controversial one. I am talking about it today because I felt like I needed to read it. So last year, a little girl who's now in grade 7, Sophie, was just like after me all of the time about borrowing the Wings of Fire series from the senior school library because I didn't have them in the junior school library. And I'm like, dude, I don't really think they're appropriate, rah, rah, rah. Anyway, she was listening to them on audio and Mum had said she could listen to them, and I love her mum, and her mum and I had a chat and yep, cool, we're going to read them. So the lovely Emily Olive, my library assistant, was traipsing over to the senior library to get these books for dear Sophie, and she was listening to them on audio and following along with the chapter book, and she just loved them. And eventually word spread amongst the year 6 girls that this was the series to be reading, and I thought, right, I'm going to have to investigate these. I had looked them up on Common Sense Media, and they did talk about the violence in the books. And I'd read a few blog posts and stuff about them, and I thought, yeah, I'm not sure. They're on the cusp. Anyway, I then did a bit more investigating, and the author, who is T. Sutherland, is actually, and I think that might be her real name, she's actually one of the authors who wrote the Warriors series. Now, for those of you who've got tweens or teens, you will no doubt know what I am talking about. Sorry if your kids love them. To me, they are like the Rainbow Magic books for tweens and teens. They're better, but they're about cats. They've got cats on the front covers, and they're warrior cats. And they're written by an author called Erin Hunter, except Erin Hunter is not a real person, just like bloody Daisy Meadows doesn't exist. Who would have thunk it, hey? Who would have thunk there would be no woman called Daisy Meadows in real life? Anyway, Daisy Meadows, who writes the Colourful Fairies Rainbow Magic series, she doesn't exist. I don't know if you knew that, but she is a group of people who write under the pseudonym Daisy Meadows. Warriors is the same. So Erin Hunter, the author, does not exist. It is a group of authors in America, I think, and they all write these Warriors books. They're not too bad. I'm giving them a bad rap. They're not my thing, and there's a lot of them, and kids, boys and girls, get really stuck on them, and it's all they'll read, and they're, I think, reasonably formulaic. Anyway, that was a little bit harsh. So, one of the authors of the Warrior series has come out with this series, and they started a long time ago, like I think in 2013, but they have absolutely developed this cult following, as has Warriors. They're about they're about a group, brood, I don't know, what's a collective noun for a group of dragons? I have no idea. They're a group of dragons, dragonettes, who are basically trying to save the world. And these baby dragons, there is humans in this story, but the dragons and the humans don't really interact, or at least they haven't in the book that I've read. I've only read the first one. I think that's enough for me. I'm not really a fan of dragons. And but what I will say is there is a reasonable amount of violence in them. Now, do I think they're suitable for a primary school? I think they're suitable for some kids in a primary school. I think they're suitable for kids who've read dragon stuff, like Eragon, some of the Isabel Carmody stuff, some of the Carol Wilkinson stuff. I think for kids who are used to dragons and the fact that dragons are big animals and they fight, yep, I don't think these are any worse than some of those. And in terms of worse, I just mean violence-wise. I think the storyline, at least in the first one that I've read, was very good. I love the world creation. For kids who are really into gaming, I think these are a really good sort of switch from gaming to some reading. I think they're excellent for that. I think they would be a good read with a parent who's really into fantasy. So, for example, my husband probably would have loved these. He was terribly into fantasy books and dragons, and I used to be really embarrassed by how often he would buy books about dragons anyway. So he would have loved them, and there are lots. I am being a snob. There are thousands, millions of people who only read books about dragons. If dragons are your thing, and you've got a teen or tween reader who is wanting a really good series and maybe is a reluctant reader or is a very avid reader, I think this series is absolutely fine. I've had a lot of questions about it at school and on my blog. A lot of parents asking me if it's suitable. Yes, I think it's suitable. I think it's on the cusp of year 6 in primary school. It was a big bolt of thunder just then. Yeah, I think they're on the cusp of primary school, high school. I would put them more as a middle grade read, but there's no sex, drugs and rock and roll. It's just a bit of violence. Way lower violence than what is in Hunger Games. I still think maybe read the first one with your child. Anyway, dragons are your thing. There's your series. Okay, final book. Now this is an ARC, so the cover's not quite as if you would buy it. An ARC is an advanced reading copy. This is the latest Meg McKinlay. Now, Meg McKinlay, I think, writes some of the best middle grade fiction in Australia. She is an astonishing author. She also writes some of the most beautiful picture books. This one is beautiful. I absolutely love her book, A Single Stone, which is one of my all-time favourite middle grade dystopian novels. I know none of my grade 7 girls will be watching this, but I'm really sorry, girls. I know a lot of you don't love A Single Stone. That's because you study it in grade 7 and I think now grade 8. And sometimes I think when we study a book with a class or a year level, I think, sorry, but I think sometimes we just analyse it and maybe destroy it for you. A Single Stone, one of the best middle grade books you will ever read. If you study it in school, you can still absolutely love it and hold it close to your heart, but I understand that we as teachers sometimes destroy books for you. We do it for a really good cause, okay? Anyway, this one is set in 1979, and the sky is falling, which is Skylab, which was a space station. It was the world's first space station, and it was started tumbling back down to Earth. Now, this is true. This actually happened. I remember reading about this. I was born in 1976, so I don't remember reading about it at the time, but I've read about it before in other books about space. And it's so this space station was falling back to Earth, and bits of it were breaking up, and there was all this media stuff about was it going to fall on people and kill the world and rah, rah, rah. Bits of it did fall in Australia. Now, the main character is a girl called Frankie, and she's 12, and she has a little brother called Newt. Their mum is the year you got married, tinkering child. You're so old. If you can't, actually you can say something nasty back to me, you can write. Jackie Tile, best teaching partner ever. I do so love our banter. Anyway, back to the book. Actually, Jackie, if you haven't read this one, you totally should read it. You would absolutely love this one. It's right up your alley. There's lots of space stuff, lots of tinkering stuff in it. You should totally read this one. I'll give it to you. Anyway, so it's got Frankie, who's 12, and Newt, her younger brother. They live with their mum, who's super, super busy at work because their dad had died a couple of years before this book is set. And again, I think you could say, if you know my situation, my husband passed away 18 months ago. And if you know my situation, you could probably say, okay, she really liked the book because it was about grief. Grief was almost secondary to the actual story. It's just a wonderful story of resilience, of coming of age, of that intersection between science and logic and hope and magic. You know, when you know something can't happen logically and scientifically, but the little tiny bit of hope inside you just really wants it to happen. Like, I kind of know that fairies aren't real, but a tiny weeny little bit of me, like 43-year-old me, knows that I'm probably not going to meet a fairy ever, but a little teeny weeny bit of me really, 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 really wants fairies to be real. Just a little bit of me. That's, to me, where this book was at. It was like on that point between where science meets magic. It's beautiful. It's about the lead up to Skylab falling back to Earth and what Frankie is reading in the media, and Newt, her little brother, starts getting really, really interested in it, and he is absolutely fascinated by it. Newt is an unusual character. He's really, really bright and really interested in science and astrology. And Frankie starts to realise that Newt is thinking maybe Dad will come back when Skylab falls. It's just, so beautiful. It's just exquisite. Somebody asked me if it's suitable for grade 5, 6. Again, a little bit like the last one I was talking about, the Wings of Fire series. I think this one is really on the cusp. I've purchased this one for my mother-daughter book club to read this year, and they are grade 6 girls. It will probably be the last book we read this year because I think it's almost a year 7 read. I think if you were doing it as a read aloud with year 6, it would be absolutely fine. I think year 5 might be pushing it a bit, but it does depend on your cohort and their maturity. So I have written a much more succinct review of this book on my blog because I know I have waffled about it. which I do, which is why I will never be a YouTuber, because I need a review. I need the time to write a review and cut out. So I write my reviews and then I cut out 3/4 of what I've written. If I was a YouTuber, I would have to do these videos and then I would have to cut out 3/4 of what I say, because I am aware I waffle. Yeah, I waffle. I don't know. I got nothing. I waffle. I'm just a waffler. I like talking. This feels friendly. I know we're not actually sitting together, but this feels friendly. Even though Jackie Child is sitting on there saying something funny. What's with the age thing today? Oh, well, hello. What's with the age thing today? What's with calling me a barcode? And does this look like a barcode outfit as well? I mean, fluff and stuff. That's right, Jackie. I'm the fluff and stuff. No, actually, my mum didn't say I'm the fluff and stuff. My mum said I'm the fluff and glitter. When my mum was talking one day to Jackie Child and I, or about Jackie Child and I, she said, yeah, Jackie's sort of like the intelligent part of the duo. She's the one that gets everything done. And you're sort of, the fluff and the glitter. I'm the fluff and the glitter. I am the fluff and the glitter. I should stop. It's now pouring here, which is great. Yeah, I should stop. Okay, I'm gonna go. For those of you who missed the start, I now have postcards for my book, and they've got little space for a reading list on the back, and I think that's really cute. And I also met the publicist today of this wonderful series, Maxie the Lifeguard, and she was delightful. And I'm going to talk more about them another week. But if you've got young, reluctant readers in your life who love beaches and lifeguarding and all that sort of stuff, he's the guy. I have never watched the show. He's the guy on Bondi Rescue, I think. Is that a show? He's the guy on that. And he just sounds completely delightful. And I'm going to talk about them another time. Yeah. Oh, Ruth, have I read A Different Boy? Oh, my glory, yes, I have read A Different Boy. Stunning, stunning. Oh, I love it. And A Different Dog, which is in the same series, Ruth. Have you read that one? A Different Boy and a Different Dog. And again, that's a book that is, it looks like it should be a grade 5 read. They're both so thin, but they're quite high level, aren't they? Oh my gosh, I sobbed in both of those. Oh, like really sobbed. Speaking of sobbing, and then I will go, oh, has anybody watched the Netflix series Afterlife? Oh my glory, by Ricky Gervais. I have not laughed so much in a long time. Like, really belly laughed. I laughed till like my belly has ached, and then sobbed. Like, I was lying in bed last night sobbing. I went through a box of tissues in the last episode. Beautiful, stunning, lots of grief, very griefy. Anyway, I'm totally gonna go because I'm actually now just putting off going and finding what my children are doing. Okay, have a great weekend. Bye.